Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. This conflict started August 2nd when the dictator of Iraq invaded a small and helpless nation. Kuwait, a member of the Arab League, a member of the United Nations, was crushed. Its people brutalized. 5 months ago,
I don't know why do they hit children and already why I lose my wife and my children. Is that fair? Nobody says something to stop this massacre. They should not. I can't say anything more.
The electricity was hit within the first half an hour of starting the war, 20 past 2, on the 17th of January, 1991. I personally can only speak about the shelter I was in, which was Al Ma'mun. That shelter, we were the Iraqi Air Force Command Center and Operational Center. We were based at the basement of that shelter. Now, at the same time, it was very clear that the ground level were open to public. 5 o'clock in the morning, one of the officers came and told us the bad news about the disaster of the Amiriyah shelter. I believe the Iraqi television has ceased to transmit because of being all the areas has been hit. So we had no knowledge of exactly what's happening around us until about 5 o'clock in the morning, when one of the officers came and told us that Al-Amiriyah shelter has been hit by 2 missiles and there was very gross civilian casualty. There was bodies of 408 women and children. Some of them were melted beyond recognition. My question is, there are a few questions here. When they have assigned the targets on Iraq for the American Air Force to bombard on their bomb list, when they presented the evidence initially, and it was the command for the American Air Force was General Buster Glossom. I have definite sources of American newspaper and intelligence reports which was published after the war. I've seen them after the war, which clearly says when it was presented to Buster Glossom, he said that means shit to me, i.e. that there was no credible evidence for whether the basement of that shelter was used for any government agency. I can speak about my shelter, yes, and I admit, yes, we were the Air Force Command Center on the basement, but there was 40 of these shelters in Baghdad. And I can't imagine that the 40 of them were used by Iraqi command or any intelligence agency or any sort of things. The American claim that they had antenna interception, that this shelter, Al-Amiriyah, is transmitting signals. Well, what happens to the photograph? Why they didn't publish the photograph of people going in and out of that shelter? The other important thing is the Western journalists arrived to the scene immediately. Why they couldn't identify any male body out of the 408 bodies, which was charcoaled.
The attack was carried out by a four-nation force: United States forces, British forces, Saudi Arabian forces, and Kuwaiti forces. It was, of course, carried out under the authority of United Nations Resolution 678. Early indications are that it has been a very successful operation.